level talks between the U.S. and Iran. I want to bring in retired Naval Intelligence Commander Dr. Paul Chabot, who's joining us via Zoom. Dr. Chabot, thanks for joining us as always.
Yeah, my pleasure. We've been together many times talking about these, and at the
Yes.
last moment, things seem to change. Um, it reminded me, if you will, I went to high school in the 90s, 1991, Gulf War One, and CNN had a gentleman by the name of Bernard Shaw, one of the late greats. He passed away in 2022, but he was broadcasting live from like some kind of phone system in Iraq as the bombs were coming in. We're now in an environment where we don't really have that. We are dependent upon tweets or comments. And this president does so often that the news changes so dramatically, which is why you and I are always, looking at our phones moments before going live to see what's coming up next. And so that's where we are today. We went from very serious escalation of potential more bombing tonight to all of a sudden a potential deal, which could be signed this weekend. According to President Trump in the Oval Office, he said it would take place in Europe and that the Vice President Vance, would be in attendance. So that's where we are at the moment. Obviously, things could change in the next hour or two as they tend to these days.
Yeah, and the both sides have really been kind of trading strikes over the last few days, Dr. Chabot, even though this ceasefire is still technically in place. But
Yeah.
it feels like over the last few weeks, and even we can go as far as to say months, that it's where it sounded like a deal's been imminent, but a deal's really never come.
Yeah, and I think most of us look at this and go, okay, here we go again. What's really going to happen this weekend? So I want to just sort of frame it in this sense, in that, we as Americans understand our form of government, a president, the commander in chief. In Iran, it's not that way. They have a president, but it's a very weak president by design that runs the day-to-day operations. Really, who runs their country is the Ayatollah. And the Ayatollah controls the military aspect of that, which is basically their IRGC, if you will. The IRGC wants no part of negotiation. That's a military arm that has threatened death to Israel, death to America. We're not negotiating with the IRGC. We're negotiating largely with diplomats, which is why I think any sort of talks of a truce are premature, because we are negotiating with folks that don't actually control the country. It's not the diplomats throwing missiles at us. It's the IRGC that controls Iran. That is why this is such a difficult negotiation. You got a country with two separate forms of leadership, but the military hierarchy controls really the destiny going forward.
Yeah, and at this point too, we've talked about how many times. Oh, and actually, no, just breaking news. President Trump believes Iran's supreme leader has signed off on an emerging deal,
Wow.
apparently just saying that as well. Iran hasn't confirmed that, but I mean, that could possibly be major news as far as that goes.
That would be huge because that's the first we have heard really of the Ayatollah in any communication. What's important here is the Ayatollah is relatively new in the leadership realm. The United States, through a strike months ago, killed the father, the Ayatollah. His then son took over. During our attacks, when we killed the Ayatollah, not only did we kill the current Ayatollah's father, but we killed the current Ayatollah's wife and child. And we believe that that Ayatollah has been moving around different locations. And that's why getting information to and from him has taken a significant delay. But if this is accurate, then this is significant good news because the Ayatollah controls the IRGC.
Yeah, and so at this point, I'm curious what we're going to have to be watching out for at this point. I was just about ready to say, as this war has been hard to predict, we get that news coming in as well. Certainly some possible good news when it comes to that.
Yeah, I would keep an eye on their, it's the equivalent to our Secretary of State who provides announcements. If it comes out from him, and I apologize for not knowing his name off the top of my tongue, but if it comes out from him that the Ayatollah has signed off or is favorable, then that is a huge headline because we've not heard anything like that before. What we do know is a number of nations aligned with the United States in the Middle East are negotiating on our behalf with the Iranians. So it's not just the U.S. going at it alone. It's a lot of our allies in the Middle East active as well.
Certainly. So what? And I guess if Iran comes out and says not so fast, we didn't sign off on that deal. I
Yeah.
wonder if that still means talks are continuing, or again, just hard to predict at this point.
I think it's hard to predict, but it shows what I think has been lacking in this conversation, and that is helping to educate and inform the Americans that these negotiations with Iran are completely different than dealing with a head of a country that we are typically used to, where Saddam Hussein, for example, he was the leader. We knew it inside and out. The negotiations stopped there. Here, whereas the military, very strong, as you know, they struck down one of our Apache helicopters with one of their drones over the weekend. We struck back, hitting a number of facilities in Iran along their southern coast. Iran then fired back at a number of our bases in the last 24, 48 hours. And then Trump today said we're going to go back after Iran and potentially take over Karg Island and others. And then all of a sudden, it looks like there's a deal on the horizon. And with the Ayatollah potentially involved here, that is a game changer.
Retired Naval Intelligence Commander Dr. Paul Chabot, we always appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much for joining us. And I should point out as well, you're going to be joining us on The Pulse coming up at 7:30 here on Fox 2 and Fox Local. And we'll see if anything more has changed in that time. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Aaron. See you then. Take care.
4:30.